How are we going, everyone? Have a look at this. I was given these English box. A family friend was digging them up out of their garden. They look quite small in the image when I saw them. I said, yeah, bring them on. Well, they brought them on, all right. Apparently they're dug up really easy because, let me show you what I've done here. I've sat them in this wheelbarrow with liquid gold, our seaweed solution, just to keep them alive. All right. Now, I don't know. What do you reckon? Now, go back about 10 years or so, maybe not as much, 10 years, you could buy English box bare rooted. Now, nowadays, you're not going to find much English box bare rooted, let alone standard roses or fruit trees. Your fruit trees maybe, but most people, most home gardeners I've noticed are preferring to get them in bags. So they've got a little bit of sawdust or a potting medium, put in the bag. The same with the roses, and it keeps them, alive. You don't have to water them. A little ecosystem's going on. There's a bit of hydration going on there. But but back 10, 15 years ago, we would get these in the hundreds, if not thousands, dug up. Half the size of this, a quarter of the size of this, twice the size root ball. So that's a small root ball for a big plant. Needless to say why it's so thin in the middle there, you've got a little bit of dieback, and that hasn't happened because of the small root ball. That was not while it was dug up, that is. It didn't happen because it was dug up. It actually happened because the root ball's really small and it's struggling. So I've got them soaking in some liquid gold. They've been in here overnight, all of them. And now I've got to cut these back, and there's nothing I can do with the roots. If you're going to buy some English box, check the roots out, see if they're okay. These ones here are very small. Little bit of damage there. See all that stuff there? Now, you can cut all that off, take all that off there. Yeah, I might have to cut that one off there because it's been broken. Look around to see if there's any damaged roots, whether it's English box or a rose or a fruit tree that you're buying, folks. I mentioned to you about cutting back your fruit trees, your weeping trees the other day. The same with these English box. Now, this is going to go in the ground. We're going to go and plant that now, and we're going to cut it back. Problem is, it's too big already for where I want to plant it. But see all this new growth coming on here? See all that there? We need to stimulate that, so I'm going to have to cut it back about here, I reckon. I don't want to go any lower than that. I need to leave some green foliage on it because the plant's going to struggle otherwise. If I take off all this top foliage off in one go, if it was in the ground, no problems. You can cut it back to down here quite easily because the roots haven't been disturbed. But because it's been disturbed and I'm going to cut it back on top, yeah, I'm going to counteract the disturbance, but still there's a high chance it may not take at all. So I'm not going to cut it all the way off, hopefully not. It might not be as low as I need it to be to match the other English box out there, which, by the way, was destroyed by Krishna. Good on you, mate. Love you, mate. So anyway, no more talking. These are soaking in some liquid gold, and now let's pick a few and take them down and plant them. This is the area, folks, where Krishna likes to venture into. You can see I've put the rope up here to stop him getting close to these roses. He's chewed the tops off these roses, and by doing that, he's actually walked onto the English box, destroyed 1, 2, 3 here, 1 over there. So these are the ones we're going to replace, and they need a feed as well, and I'll go through that in a minute. But for starters, let's see what sort of roots we've got under here still, because the tops are gone. The soil's pretty soft. Look at this, completely gone. Look at the difference in roots from the ones we got there to this tiny plant, full of roots, yet things just curled up and died. That's what happens when a horse, 600 kilos, steps on you. There's not much that survives under the foot of a horse, eh? All right, so now what we're going to do is just loosen all this up. Have a look at this. Grasses are growing through in multiple layers, folks. You're going to find everything in here. The important thing about digging a hole for the plants is that you don't dig a square hole, you dig a rectangle hole because it's a line. The old saying is don't dig a round hole because the roots go in a circular formation, they can choke themselves. And if you dig a square hole, that way they can't go around corners because they don't bend at 95 degrees or 90 degrees, that is. So if you dig a square hole, it forces them to push their way through the wall of the hole. But in this case here, it's a rectangle because we've got 3 of them going in a row here. So I've loosened most of it up, a little bit more. And what we're going to add to this is a little bit of nutrients, a little bit of fertiliser. And what I've got here at the moment is my blood and bone, and I like to mix in the black grit with it as well. So for every 5 handfuls of blood and bone or thereabouts, I put a small handful of black grit in there as well and mix it through, and then sprinkle it over the top. I think it's about 2 or 3 handfuls, well, a handful for each English box, so that's 3 handfuls. And now we're just going to mix it through again. We've got dead roots in here as well. You can see all those little fibrous roots on top. Don't worry about those too much, as long as they're not grass runners like this. You know, it's inevitable this is all going to grow back in here, especially now with the blood and bone and the black grit. Grass is going to love it. All right, let's trench it open now and drop our little plants in here, eh? When you do trench it, folks, one thing to keep in mind is at the base of it. So I've dug down to the bottom. Look here, right? That's a root from the actual rose or the conifers there. Now I've hit the base, which is meant to be a hard surface. Well, it's not meant to be. In this case here, it's not that hard because it's a sandy loam base. Once you've done that, sprinkle some soil over the top so it's actually sitting on some soft soil, loosened soil. You know, a little bit of the stuff that you mixed in with the blood and bone and the black grit. So your roots aren't sitting on a hard base, but rather a nice cushion, sort of fluffy soil, so they can grow straight into the roots or into the soil and take hold of the ground, and they don't fall over. Bloody hard over here, isn't it? Look at that. That's grass for you. There we go. Oh, that's the big, look at this. Look at the size of this thing. Oh Lord. Okay, well this has got a lot of growth at the bottom, so we can quite comfortably cut this one right back. Now before I drop it and cover this over, we need to put all 3 in a row together. So don't plant one then move on and start digging up a hole again and plant the next one. Try and put them all in position to see how the roots are sitting next to each other. For example, well, these ones have got really small roots. So see that? Look at that, those long roots. I can't put them in like that. I can if I wanted, but dig a wider hole. Just going to turn it around that way and position it. We've got a few dead branches on this, which is okay. We can cut them off. So that's there. That's there. What's this one doing? Okay. And that one is going to sit something like that. Yeah. All right, that's it. Done. There you go, finished. Might go for a drink now. Problem I have here, because they're top heavy, they're going to constantly fall over, so I'm going to start cutting these. I'm actually going to cut them a little bit higher than what I have on the sides there, because this one in particular, if I cut it down to that height, I'm going to be left with nothing but dry twigs at the bottom. See that there? Because these have to be cut down. So I'm going to come up here. It's going to look ugly for a few weeks or months until it takes, and as soon as I see the new growth, we'll cut it back down to match the sides. Now I'm using my anvil loppers here, cutters, not my secateurs bypass, because these will cut through this sort of hardwood or semi-hardwood that we have here. All right, we know the height. Sit down here and cut it like a piece of wood, eh? It's a live piece of wood. I know the magnesium in the black grit's going to really help this, especially the calcium. So that's what's going to keep these things alive. See that root there? It's a little bit long to get in there, that's all. So we can afford to do that on that one. Look at all this dead wood up here. Well, it's not dead wood, it's a lot of dry stuff. There's obviously another plant growing next to it. It's caused it to dry out there. So now this is going to have the space and the airflow and the sunlight. So hopefully it fills in on the back there. But I'm putting the better side to the front. But I'm still about, 100 mil higher than the ones next door. If I cut it any lower, it's just going to be like a dead piece of wood here. So avoid that. We're going to there, but don't put too much soil in, only on the one side, just to stabilise it, like that, staying still. And now let's move to the next one. All right, cut this one back as well. There's a couple of pieces of dead wood in here, but don't have to worry about too much. More so this stuff here, look at that, the grass is right in the middle of the roots. Is that gonna come out? Ah, it's broken off. Come on. It's growing inside the middle of it. Here we go, here it comes. There it is, gone. All right, get that out of the way. All right, pick the better side. Is there a better side on these things? Don't worry, we'll visit these later on in another lifetime. Okay, that's there. There we are. That's number 2. Geez, that looks ugly, doesn't it? But honestly, no, it'll work out. I might cut the first one a little. No, I won't. I'll just work with that. Let it grow from the bottom. Once it starts to fill out, then take the tops off. So you got to sacrifice a little bit of ugliness, as my wife says, for a happier life. I love you, honey. See all this dead wood in here? All this has got to come out. Or dry stuff, that is. It's not necessarily completely dead, but you know, it's going to end up dying because there's nothing else to happen there. And it's not the best looking plant, like I said before. Look at that, cut that off. It's going to look ugly, but it's going to fill the gap, and when it grows you can hedge them like a typical English box when it grows back again. And the last one that goes in here. All right. Position there, see the roots? They're nice and open. If they were a big set of root systems, you want to fan them out. If they were curled over like that, folks, you don't put them in like that with a bent root. So open it up, wedge it into the place, or dig a little bit more if you need to. And we have our 3 English boxes replacing the ones that died from Krishna, or at the foot of Krishna. Oh, what's the word? The hoof. Push the soil in. Normally I'd say shake them around, but I don't want to dislodge them too much, so what we're going to do is just mound up the soil as best we can around the root ball, each one like this. And because these are pretty tough plants, we're going to step on them, just a little bit like that. And the last thing we're going to do now is give them some Eco Butch and Liquid Gold, hydrate them well, then we're going to sit back and wait for the warmer weather to come so they can start growing. Oh, look at that. He's destroyed all those ones there as well. Where are you, mate? Where's he gone? I can't stand it. I'm going to cut it back. It's just too tall. There's still enough leaves down there. See, precision cutting, folks. It's all about precision. You just can't cut anywhere willy-nilly because these plants are so delicate. They're going to need to be taken care of like little babies. You understand what I mean? Just cut them really carefully. Look for the right spot, the right height. And make sure your tools are clean. In other words, do as I say, not as I do. Oh folks, I've changed my mind again. I can't stand looking at it. There's enough growth there. You can see there's enough growth at the bottom. So I'm going to bring all this hardwood down, these big chunky pieces off, these big chunky pieces. I'm going to cut it right back so I can get some more softwood growth down below to fill this up, because these are just too thick and too tall. And I don't want it to grow from the tips. That's what my concern is here. See all this little growth here? This is what I want to keep. I want that to grow nicely, but if it's too high already, it's going to grow out of shape. So just cut it down, get rid of the thick hardwood, the old stuff. That's there, look at that. Now if that grows there, it's going to grow up here. It's already too tall. Cut it back down. I've got enough growth outside here to maintain it. See this? That's already too high, too woody. Get rid of that. So this is why you need to take your time to cut it precisely. Don't rush it, like I did. And a nice drenching with Eco Butch and Liquid Gold to settle them in, folks. Just what they need for a spring growth to come on. Now you can find all this at vasilisgarden.com. That's Eco Butch, Liquid Gold and Black Grit. And now with our end of financial year sale, you can get yourself up to 60% off everything online. Check it all out, vasilisgarden.com, and get yourself some great products for your garden to enjoy. From me, Vasili, Maresi.